Hello good people, I'm Dominic Cronin, and in this video I'd like to show you how to make an Azure function entirely from the command line. So for another demonstration that I'm planning, I need to have an online service that just returns some simple values, and I've chosen to do this using an Azure function written in C#. So it's something of a hello world example. But perhaps I should explain that part about entirely from the command line. So in this world of cloud computing, it's very easy to get overwhelmed by the abundance of possibilities, of the huge complexity of everything. So sometimes it's good to remind ourselves that all software is made up of very simple building blocks, and that most of the activities that we do are also simple building blocks. So seeing as what I'm going to do is actually quite simple, I thought let's show how simple it is by doing it the hard way. So to that end, I've given myself the somewhat artificial constraint of doing everything from the command line. I might cheat a little bit and grab the mouse if I want to highlight a piece of text or something, but the general idea is that I'm going to do it by typing. So let's get a start there. Pull up my shell, and the first thing I want to look at is the prerequisites here. So I'm going to type in func, which is the command that opens the Azure Function Core Tools, if I've got that right. That isn't so helpful, so I'm just going to pipe it through outhost to get some paging in the style of the old more command. Right, yeah. So here I'm going to pick up my mouse now and highlight this. Azure Functions Core Tools. This is a package that you need to have installed on your system, and this is a fairly recent version. If you have this installed, you can use it for a whole bunch of things. So running the functions host locally, so you can actually execute Azure functions without pushing them up to Azure. If you're doing local development, you want a nice short development cycle. You've also got commands to do things in Azure and set up various other things. Let me just hit the space bar and we'll go down to the next page. You can also see we have two commands here which are interesting for us. One is init, which we're going to use to scaffold out a new function app, and new, which is we're going to use to create the function itself. So let's just do a clear to get the thing a bit more visible. So I'm going to right. So the next thing that you need to have as your prerequisites is you need to have the Azure module for PowerShell. So let me just do get module list available AZ, and you can see that on my system I've got actually more than one version of the Azure module. I should probably tidy that up, but at least I have a recent one. So, and that will enable me to use the Azure command, that's all, whatever you call them. Okay, so on with the demonstration. I'm in an empty folder, and I'm going to use func init, and I'm going to give it a name, give my project a name. This will be Azure Functions Demo. Azure Function Demo, actually, because I'm only demoing one function. And what I want to say then is --.net. So watch out for this. We're now in func. We're using a double dash to give the arguments. So it's not like a PowerShell command where you give a single dash. The other thing of note about this is that these parameters, or the parameter names, are case sensitive, which in PowerShell they wouldn't be. So yeah, let's have a look what we've got. Okay, so I'm going to change directory into this. It's created a folder for me. So I'm going to change directory into there, and we'll see that it's created some things for me. And I'm just going to show you what's in Azure, the C# project file. And what we can see here is that it's defaulting to the target framework of .NET 6 and the Azure Functions version v4, and then you can see also there's a package reference to a specific v4 version. That's going to get interesting in a minute. So yeah, as you can see, we've got the C# project file, but we haven't actually got a C# file for the class that's going to implement the function. So what we need to do for that is do func new, and then I've got to give it a name, minus name, Azure demo function, and yeah, I have to do a minus template HTTP trigger, and then I'm going to say minus auth level anonymous. Let me just make this window a little bit wider. And you can see that it's giving us a prompt for the parameters it needs, even though we've already given them, which is fine. But it's created something. Okay, so we'll just have a quick look, and you can see that now I have an Azure demo function CS file. So I'm just going to open that up and have a quick look. I'm going to use a command line friendly editor. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Okay, so it's created a class, the Azure demo function, and that function has, or that class has, a method called run, and it's got a function named Azure demo function. So in terms of calling this thing, it doesn't actually matter what the function's called. It's gonna get that from the attribute. And you can see here that it's set up authorization level anonymous, which is what I asked for. If you make a mistake typing in those command line arguments, it'll silently ignore your mistake, is my experience. So it's worth checking in here. It has created it as anonymous, and if it hadn't done, you could just fix it up in here. This is just boilerplate or scaffolding code. You can fix it up to suit yourself. So then let's have a look at what it actually does. It supports a get and a post, as you can see from the decoration on the HTTP request parameter. And then it's going to read out the name from the query string, and it's also going to read JSON out of the body. So if you do a post, it'll expect to find JSON in the body. and then what does it do? It makes a response message, either to say you've forgotten to put the name in, or to say you have put the name and this was what it was, and it returns an OK status. So let's get back to that. So I have an Azure function. It's just been generated by the Azure Function Core tools for me, and what I want to do now is push that up to Azure. So the first thing I need to do is, so I'm now going from the Azure Function Core tools to the PowerShell module. So we're going to say connect AZ account, and that should pop up a browser for me. And it's just I'm just going to hit enter. So I'm now logged into my Azure account, so I can start with making a resource group. So a resource group is just a container that you can conveniently group things together. It's very handy with this sort of work, because when I want to throw this all away afterwards, I can just throw the resource group away. New AZ resource group. Name, and I'm going to do, again, I'm going to call my resource group Azure Function Demo, and I'm going to say location West Europe. I forgot actually, I've been planning to make a little variable for that. LOC equals West, but still saved me a little bit of typing. Okay, so now I can, yes, I can pretty much follow my plan for the rest of my demo. So I've got a resource group. The next thing I need to do is create a storage account, because a function app needs a storage account to store its stuff. So we're going to say new AZ storage account, and then we're going to say resource group name. Whoops, typing too fast for myself. I'm just going to say $rg.resource group name, just to save myself the typing. And I'm just going to do a backtick here to come down onto the next line. And what are the rest of the parameters I need? Oh yeah, I need to give it a name actually, yeah. Name. And these names need to be unique in the sense that Azure will offer us URL access to a storage account, and it will push a name into the DNS for us. So we need to have a name that doesn't clash with anybody else who's using the Azure storage account, let's say. So yeah, I decided that the best name for this demo would be 007FFF Cloud, which is the hex code for the color azure and cloud. Let's hope nobody else is using that one. And let's call it cloud storage. And the resource group name we've done already. The SKU name, so which Azure storage product do we want? There's various versions of an Azure storage account, and this needs to be the standard LRS, locally redundant storage, and it wants a location, and I'm going to use the variable I just made. Didn't save as much typing as I might have. and it's going off up there to Azure, and it's creating a storage account for me. Now the next step, if you want to, you can create an application insights resource in Azure and attach that to your function app as well. But by default, if you don't do that, Azure will do that for you anyway. So we'll get that for free. So let's not make this demo any more complicated than it needs to be. So I have a storage account. So now I'm going to say new AZ function app name 007 FFF cloud resource group name .rgo. I keep hitting the caps lock. G.resource group name, and I need to tell it which storage account name I want. Storage account name 07 FFF cloud storage. Give it a location. And what I want to say is runtime.net, because I have locally in this folder I've got a .net function app, the function or a .net function, I suppose. Well, function app. The function app entity in Azure also needs to be the same kind. And then I'm going to say functions version. And although the scaffolded out code gave us a function of version 4, I'm actually going to say 3 at this point, because this API doesn't yet support creating a new function app with version 4. So what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to do it with version 3, which will be fine. We'll solve it in the next step. So if you remember, when I opened up the CS project file, it mentioned the Azure Functions version. Okay, and it's telling me I should have also specified some other things that I'm relying on the defaults for. So let's just let this do its thing, push it up to Azure. Or it's creating the thing in Azure for me. When I say push it up to Azure, that's the next step. We're going to use the Azure Functions core tools to do a publish. Okay, so we have an application with a function app with a name. That's interesting. It doesn't seem to have picked up the runtime.net when it's reporting back. Never mind. So the next operation is, get my mouse back here. Func Azure function app publish and then I need to use the name of the function app to which I wish to publish the current folder. So that is 007FFF cloud. And because we're pushing the wrong version or publishing the wrong version, I'm going to say force. That's going to allow me to publish a version 4 function app into a version 3 function app resource that's been created in Azure. So let's have a look at that. So it's building a project. Okay, so we have a function, and I'm just going to save myself some typing here. So I can then do invoke web request, and we get a response back. It says this HTTP triggered function executed successfully. And you probably remember that message from the application. I'm now going to give it a name parameter. And it'll say, hello Dominic, with a bit of luck. Yeah, hello Dominic. So you can also do this from the browser as well, of course. More than one way to invoke a web endpoint. So I have a working Azure function, but it's not it doesn't fulfill the initial requirements that I started with, which is that I want to have, let's say, a web service that returns some data rather than just text. So let's just get into the Azure Demo Function CS class. I'm going to quickly edit this a little bit. And so what we're going to say is, look, over here, I want to say var response object equals new, and I'm just using an anonymous object in C#, and I'm going to say message equals response message, comma. And I quite like the idea of having the name out there as well. So name equals name, comment equals this version returns JSON. Okay, and there we are. There's my response object, and now I just want to do return new JSON result response object, and get rid of that. And if I now if I then go and repeat my publish, so I have a new deployment. And I'm just going to control click on this and get it up in the browser so we can see. So it works in the browser. Name equals Dominic. Hello, there we are. And let's just also repeat the PowerShell invoke web request. And what we can see here is that the content type is application JSON. You know, and obviously if you're using this from a script, you do something like invoke REST method, and then you get back an object with the different fields. So it's all seems to be working. While I've got the browser open, I'm now abandoning my constraint of only using the mouse completely. I'm just going to very quickly go to the portal and find my resource group. Azure Function Demo, that was it. And you can see that it's created for me the automatically application insights. It's created the function app. There's the storage app, and it's also created an app service plan. You could also, from such a scripted approach, you could also explicitly create the app service plan and attach that at the same time when you're creating the function app. So that was the demonstration of creating an Azure function in C#, a serverless function if you like, and publishing it up to Azure. And I'm going to be able to use that in my future demonstration to demonstrate making a call to a service. And well, the idea was to show you that it's all simple steps, and this is a small simple step, easy to do from the command line. And I hope that's useful to you. Thanks. Bye bye.